Hi dear students, good morning. Welcome back to our history class. Today we are continue the chapter 10, India after independence. Now let's see how were states to be formed. In the 1920, the Indian National Congress had promised that each major linguist group or language group they would have its own province after independence. That is, the National Congress, they promised that they would provide separate provinces, each language begin different. Then Tamil people provinces, then Kannada people provinces, Malayali people, etc. The Congress did not take any steps to honor this promise. Why? Because as a result of the partition of India, more than 1 million people had been killed in riots between Hindus and Muslims. Okay, hence Congress decided not to make further division on the basis of language. Both Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru and Deputy Prime Minister Vallabhbhai Patel were against the creation of linguistic states. After the partition, Nehru said disruptionist tendencies had come to the fore. To check them, the nation had to be strong and united. That means constituting political party tendency had come. Okay, the nation had to be strong and united, so that the Congress leaders would now go back on their promise created great disappointment. Congress disappointment among the Kannada, Malayalam, Marathi and Telugu speakers. Okay, they began to protest. The strongest protests came from the Telugu speaking districts of Madras Presidency. When Nehru went to campaign there during the general elections of 1952, he was met with black flags and slogans demanding, "We want Andhra. We want Andhra." In October of that year, a veteran Gandhian named Poti Sriramalu went on a hunger strike demanding the formation of Andhra state to protect the interests of Telugu speakers. The fast attracted much support. Hartals and burns were observed in many towns. On 15 December 1952, 58 days into his fast, Poti Sriramalu died. As a newspaper put it, the news of the passing away of Sriramalu engulfed entire Andhra in chaos. The protests were so widespread and intense that the central government was forced to give in to the demand. Thus, on 1 October 1953, the new state of Andhra came into being, which subsequently became Andhra Pradesh. After the creation of Andhra, other linguistic communities also demanded their own separate states. A states organization commission was set up in 1956 that submitted its report, recommending the redrawing of district and provincial boundaries to form compact provinces, that agreement provinces, of Assamese, Bengali, Oriya, Tamil, Malayalam, Kannada and Telugu speakers respectively. The large Hindi-speaking region of North India was also to be broken up into several states. In 1960, the bilingual state of Bombay was divided into separate states for Marathi and Gujarati speakers. Bilingual state, two-language state, of Bombay was divided into separate states for Marathi and Gujarati. In 1966, the state of Punjab was also divided into Punjab and Haryana. The former for the Punjabi speakers. Understand? The latter for the rest then spoke not Punjabi but versions of Haryanvi or Hindi. Let's see. Indian states before 1 November 1956. Red color marked states are princely states and yellow color marked states are other states. Planning for development, lifting India and Indians out of poverty and building a modern technical and industrial base were among the major objectives of the new nation. In 1950, the government set up a planning commission to help design and execute suitable policies for economic development. There was a broad agreement on what was called a mixed economy. Okay, that was model. Okay, both the state and private sector, both the government and the private sector would play important and complementary roles in increasing production and generating jobs. Okay, what especially these roles were to be, which industries should be initiated by the state and which by the market, okay, to achieve a balance between the different regions and states. That was to be defined by the planning commission. Okay, now planning commission had been replaced by a new institution named what? Can you say? Nidhi Ayog. Later, this planning commission was actually dissolved by Prime Minister Narendra Modi in 2014, and it was now replaced by a new institution named Nidhi Ayog. Okay, Nidhi Ayog, National Institution for Transforming India. Okay, in which year the planning commission is replaced by Nidhi Ayog? 1 January 2015. Okay, replaced by 2015. Okay. Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru was a great supporter of the planning process. He explained the ideals and purposes of planning in a series of letters he wrote to the chief ministers of the different states. Okay, so the first 5-year plan was formulated in 1951 to 1956. Let's see 5-year plans. In the first 5-year plan, 1951 to 1956, more focused on agriculture. Okay, so in 1956 to 1961, the second 5-year plan was formulated. This focused strongly on the development of heavy industries such as steel and on the building of large dams. For example, the bridge on the Mahanadi River constructed to control the flow of water. Next, working going on at the Gandhi Sagar Dam. This was the first of the 4 dams built on the Chambal River in Madhya Pradesh. It was completed in 1960. Okay, so bridges and dams became the symbol of development in independent India. These sectors would be under the control of the state. Okay, this focus on heavy industry and the effort at state regulation of the economy was to guide economic policy for the next few decades. It was the symbol of this development achieved to the next 5 years. Okay, so this approach had many strong supporters but also some vocal critics. Some felt that it had put inadequate emphasis on agriculture. Okay, in the first 5-year plan, more focused on agriculture. Okay, so others argued that it had neglected primary education, avoided primary education. Okay, still others believed that it had not taken account of the environmental implications of economic policies. As Mahatma Gandhi's follower, Mirabahan wrote in 1949, by science and machinery, he may get huge returns for a time, but ultimately will come desolation. We have got to study nature's balance and develop our lives within her laws if we are to survive as a physically healthy and morally decent species. Mirabahan wrote in 1949, by science and machinery he may get huge returns for a time, but later on, if we don't try to maintain nature's balance, then we will not be able to live a healthy and morally decent life. Okay, Mirabahan worked for protection of environment. So now let's see how India was associated with an independent foreign policy. India gained freedom soon after the Second World War. At that time, a new international body, the United Nations, formed in 1945. Okay, listen. United Nations formed in 1945. For what? For international peace and security. The 1950 and 1960 saw the emergence of the Cold War between the USA and the USSR, with both countries creating military alliances. This was also the period when colonial empires were collapsing and many countries were attaining independence. Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru was also the foreign minister of newly independent India. Okay, he developed Free India's foreign policy in this context. Non-alignment formed the bedrock of this foreign policy. Led by statesmen from Egypt, Yugoslavia, Indonesia, Ghana, and India, the non-aligned movement urged countries not to join either of the two major alliances. Hence, non-aligned countries such as India played an active role in mediating between the American and Soviet alliances. They tried to prevent war, often taking a humanitarian and moral stand against war. Okay, by the 1970, a large number of countries had joined the non-aligned movement. Okay, non-aligned movement. So let's next see what happened to the nation after 60 years of independence. On 15 August 2007, India celebrated 60 years as a free nation. India is still united and that it is still democratic. Many foreign observers had felt that India could not survive as a single country. It would break up into many parts, with each region or linguistic group seeking to form a nation of its own. Others believed that it would come under military rule. 13 general elections have been held since independence, as well as hundreds of state and local elections. There is a free press, there is an independent judiciary. Finally, the fact that people speak different languages or practice different faiths has not come in the way of national unity. In fact, will stress unity in diversity. On the other hand, deep divisions persist despite constitutional guarantees. The untouchables, or as they are now referred to, the Dalits, face violence and discrimination. In many parts of rural India, they are not allowed access to water sources, temples, parks, and other public places. Okay, similarly, and despite the secular ideals enshrined in the constitution, there have been clashes between different religious groups in many states. Okay, so the gap between the rich and the poor has grown over the years. Okay, some parts of India and some groups of Indians have benefited a great deal from economic development. For example, they live in large houses and dine in expensive restaurants, send their children to expensive private schools and take expensive foreign holidays. At the same time, many others continue to live below the poverty line. Okay, housed in urban slums or living in remote villages on lands that yield little, they cannot afford to send their children to school. Dharavi in Bombay is one of the world's largest slums. Notice the high-rise buildings in the background. Okay, please look at picture. Okay, Dharavi in Bombay. Even though the constitution recognizes equality before the law, but in real life, some Indians are more equal than others. Okay, Indians are more equal than others. Judged by the standards it set itself at independence, the Republic of India has not been a great success, but it has not been a failure either. Okay. So we have completed the chapter India after independence. You must read the lesson carefully. Okay, thank you.